Welcome back, everybody. If you're new, my name's Nicholas, and this is Investing Against the Grain. On Thursday, there is a crisis meeting held by Volkswagen's top officials, Herbert and Ralf Brandstätter, along with 120 of their top managers. Now, bear in mind, this meeting was solely because of the new factory opening up in Grünheide. And who's doing that? Tesla. Giga Berlin is the whole reason they had this crisis meeting. So in today's episode, we're going to unpack what this means and to see whether or not Volkswagen is in real trouble. Now, before we get into it, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring that bell. As you can see in the tweet here, Alex tweeted, according to Business Insider sources, Herbert and brand CEO Ralf Brandstätter called Thursday all 120 top managers in Wolfsburg together for a crisis meeting. Dees stated that compared to Tesla and Chinese manufacturers, Volkswagen is too expensive, too slow, and with low productivity, not competitive. Now, this is something that we've heard Elon Musk talk about with Tesla on and on over and over, talking about how hard production and manufacturing is. In fact, he mentioned it in 2020 during Battery Day. Let's have a quick listen.
I think manufacturing is underappreciated in general. The difficulty of designing the machine that makes the machine is vastly harder than the machine itself. Making a Model 3 or Model Y or Cybertruck prototype is really quite trivial compared to designing the factory that makes it. Especially if it's new technology and you want to use new manufacturing methods, it's just at least 10 to 100 times harder to do the factory than the prototype. And that's why you see a lot of companies out there or startups, they'll bring out a prototype, but they just can't get it over the hump for manufacturing, because manufacturing of new technology especially is the hardest thing by far. You know, like basically the prototype is at best 10% of the difficulty and probably closer to 1%.
Like Elon Musk mentioned there, anytime you have new technologies, especially new manufacturing technologies, it's very hard to ramp up and to get these things into volume production. This is why we don't see a lot of the models and concept vehicles that we see out there, and not just vehicles, this goes with any industry. And this is why it's incredible to see what Elon Musk and Tesla are doing with things like the 4680 battery. Keep in mind, the 4680 battery, it's viable, it works, but what are they busting their asses on? They're working on trying to figure out how to manufacture this in a way that is going to be very efficient and have very few bottlenecks, if any. This is what matters, is to be able to scale up. And until they can get that right, they're holding off on actually producing the 4680 battery. This is why it's so important. And the same thing goes for the Cybertruck. Keep in mind, the Cybertruck, right? This is a exoskeleton. We've seen endoskeletons before. We've seen bodies on top of frame construction. That's what most vehicles are. We don't see a lot, or we rarely, other than like maybe in the military, see exoskeletons. If you're not familiar, the idea of an exoskeleton, an endoskeleton would be the idea of like our bodies, where we have skin over our bones and all the important organs that we have. Now, our skin is very fragile, right? You can easily puncture it, you can damage our skin easily. That's what a endoskeleton that you'll see in some trucks, right? Not many. Most trucks have a body on frame, so you have the frame and then you just put the cab and the bed all on top of it. And again, the exterior of all of those are very fragile, and all the important stuff is inside, right? All the shell, the hard part of the vehicle is on the inside. Now, with a exoskeleton, which is the Cybertruck, it's the opposite. You can think of the exoskeleton like a turtle, where a turtle has a hard shell on the outside and inside is all the important stuff. And so what this means is that for the exterior of the Cybertruck, it's very tough, right? It can take a beating. It's not as sensitive as a, say, F-150. If I go and I scratch it, right, you're going to have paint damage and things of that nature. With the Cybertruck, you won't have that. That exoskeleton is very rigid, very strong. I bring this up because this is new. This is going to require new manufacturing processes, and this is very hard. And this is what they're realizing when it comes to Volkswagen. And it's not just them. Ford's realizing this, GM's realizing this, Stellantis, everyone's realizing that what Tesla's been able to accomplish is very difficult. Everyone thought that these OEMs would just be able to scale up volume production because they've done it before, they know how to manufacture, but the truth is they know how to manufacture in old, inefficient ways. They haven't really improved or revolutionized what they're doing in decades. We're talking about 50, 60, 70 decades. And meanwhile, over the last 10, 15 years, Tesla has been working on refining the best way to manufacture in the 21st century. And that's what we're seeing here. So let's continue to look at what Alex had posted from his source with regards to this crisis meeting. Now, it is a matter of taking up the fight against Grünheide. Again, remember, this is Giga Berlin. Diess said, according to Business Insider sources, if everything remains as it is, Diess insists, Volkswagen will no longer be competitive. Diess, quote, we have a great responsibility for this site, talking about Wolfsburg. We have to embrace the new competition, which is Tesla. CEO Brandstätter stated, it is urgently necessary that a new course is set in Wolfsburg. Future competition with Tesla's new Gigafactory will be brutal. The electric car pioneer sets new standards in car production. Yeah, you're damn right they do. They are exceeding everybody when it comes to production. It is not even close. What they're doing with their factories, with less robots, less processes, less people, less parts, they just iterate and iterate, right? The calling card for Tesla, the best process is no process. The best part is no part. Lower the weight. Be more efficient. Come up with new ideas. This is the way they work. This is their culture. They have a culture of engineering. They want everybody to be iterating and improving, coming up with ideas. And they want to eliminate red tape. The whole notion of this is the way we've always done it, get out of here. It has no place in Tesla. And this is the kind of culture that Herbert Diess is trying to instill within Volkswagen. If we scroll down here, we get a little more insight, which is interesting. Brandstätter continued, for example, the Model 3 is built in 10 hours. More than 3 times as fast as VW ID3 in Zwickau. I'm not really sure how to say that. This puts Tesla in another dimension in terms of productivity and profitability. This is dramatic. 10 hours to make a Model 3. More than 3 times faster than the ID3. This goes to talk about just the sheer leaps and bounds of how much further Tesla is when it comes to their manufacturing. And guess what? It's just going to get better, right? When they go to doing 2 castings and a structural pack, and eventually if they get to a 1 casting for the vehicles, it's just going to get faster and faster. And you better believe that from Fremont to Shanghai, they were extremely efficient. Shanghai is a dramatic improvement compared to Fremont because Shanghai was Tesla built, whereas Fremont was modified to fit Tesla's needs. With Shanghai, they're going to have a lot of lesson learned from there. And come Berlin opening and Austin opening, they're going to just improve, right? It's going to be even more efficient than what's happening in Shanghai. So this is a very valid point. But to really stress on this, let's listen again to another clip from Elon Musk during Battery Day, talking purely about this, right? About doing more with less.
Yeah, if you break the factory down into cubic meter sections, or smaller, it could be like 1 liter sections, is a majority of this volume doing useful work? You would be astounded at how bad most factories are. They're like maybe 2 or 3%, including our factory in Fremont. I think it is possible to get to at least 10 times that volumetric efficiency, more like 30%. Ish, maybe more, and be 10x better, which means the factory can be 10 times smaller. And then the other thing is how fast are things going through the factory? It's like speed and density. The faster you go, like if a factory that's moving at say twice the speed of another factory is equivalent to 2 factories, basically. The company that will be successful is the company that with 1 factory can accomplish what other companies take 2 or 3 or 4 factories to do. This is what we're trying to do here is say, okay, how do we with 1 factory achieve what maybe 5 or even 10 factories would normally be required to achieve?
Diess continues. He says that we need a will to live and a jolt at the site. Trinity has to take the site to a new competitive level, has to revolutionize it, also with new processes. However, the board says the designs for the project so far don't go far enough. Now, you may be wondering, what is Trinity? I didn't really know what Trinity was until I got into this little tweet storm from Alex, and I went ahead and looked up Trinity. And so I found it. I highlighted some key parts, and let's go ahead and just take a look at that and unpack it a little bit. So here on the Volkswagen website, we can find out some information about Project Trinity. Trinity, with high range, extremely short charging times, and revolutionary production, the sedan will launch in 2026. All right, so we know it's a sedan, Obviously, it's going to be an electric vehicle, and this is supposed to be some kind of revolutionary product that they're going to come to market with. So here we are at the Volkswagen webpage talking about Project Trinity. With high range, extremely short charging times, and revolutionary production, the sedan will launch in 2026. So electric sedan, very obvious here, but let's see if we can get any more insight into what this really is. Trinity becomes the focal point of the Accelerate strategy. Business Model 2.0 is intended to generate digital revenues over the period of use. Obviously, they're going with a new business model for what they're doing. This is a whole new strategy that's going to be their attempt to accelerate this transition into the EV world. New standards in range charging speed and digitalization. With the production of the series version, so it sounds like there's going to be multiple of them, the Wolfsburg plant becomes a showcase for innovative, fully networked production process. All right, that's great and all, but really, to me, that just sounds like a bunch of marketing terms. We don't really have any meat on the bones for what we're talking about here. Volkswagen is given a first design preview of Project Trinity. The electrically powered sedan is to be built in Wolfsburg from 2026 and will set new standards in terms of range, charging speed, and digitization, and will be able to drive highly automated according to level 4. Okay, that's ambitious. If we scroll down here, we will see some more stuff I highlighted that I found interesting. Everything else just didn't seem that important to me. By the planned start of series production in 2026, Trinity will already reach level 2 plus and be technically ready for level 4. Quote, "We are using our economies of scale to make autonomous driving available to many people and to build a learning neural network." So this is very interesting because they're talking about neural networks now, which sounds like they're really trying to go the path of Tesla using neural networks versus the path of something like Waymo, right, where they're using LiDARs and HD maps and these ridiculous amount of sensors and, again, LiDARs, which are just unnecessary. So this is good and it's promising that they're going to create their own neural network. We will completely rethink the way we build cars and introduce revolutionary approaches. Digitalization, automation, and lightweight construction play an important role here, says Ralf Brandstätter. So this is great and all, but the tweets we were just reading were kind of contradicting this. And even worse, if you really think about it, the tweets we were just reading are them comparing themselves to Tesla today. And yet this Project Trinity is supposed to get them to where Tesla is today, but we're in 2021. This is supposed to be in 2026. Where's Tesla going to be in 2026? I mean, yeah. All right, let's keep reading. Maybe things will make a little more sense. Future vehicle models such as Trinity will be produced with considerably fewer variants, and the hardware will largely standardize. All right, this is great. In my honest opinion, if any OEM is going to survive this next decade, and this movement into electric vehicles as the de facto powertrain for vehicles moving forward, you're going to have to reduce the amount of vehicles you make, right? Gone are the days of the Toyotas, the Hondas, the Fords, the GMs, on and on and on, of these 20, 30, 40 different models of vehicles they have. Now it's going to be the Steve Jobs returns to Apple approach, where we get rid of all these excessive products and we focus narrowly on 1, 2, or 3 products. And those are the ones we lead with. In other words, what Tesla has been doing for a long time, right? With the Model S, the Model X, the Model 3, the Model Y, the Cybertruck, right? We don't have 20, 30 different variants of vehicles. We have few vehicles with parts that can be kind of interchanged in between them, right? The 3 and Y, a lot of similarities. The S and X, a lot of similarities. The Cybertruck, well, nothing quite like the Cybertruck, but you never know. They might make a whole cyber line of vehicles. And then eventually the $25,000 vehicle, I think a lot of those will all be standardized across the board. So again, we can interchange parts. So I do like this. I do think this is the right way forward. And I think companies like GM and Ford talking about all these new vehicles that they're going to have, these new vehicle lineups, I think they're making a big mistake. So let's continue here. By developing the automobile into a software-based product, okay, again, this is something we've all been talking about for so long, saying that, auto manufacturers really need to become software companies. So, again, I'm starting to see a trend here of this all just becoming a kind of manifesto of what did Tesla do and how do they work as a company and how can we write that as our mission for Project Trinity. So what have we seen so far? Okay, electric sedan, talk about charging, talk about fast charging, talk about neural networks. We're talking about less models. And now we're sitting here talking about, oh, it's a software. We're not auto manufacturer, we're a software company. Now, they're saying all the right things, and these are the things they have to do, but to sit here and talk using words like revolutionize and improve and groundbreaking and just all these marketing words to make it sound like they're the ones leading the way to the future, I don't know. It's a little disingenuous, a little too marketing for me, but that's just my 2 cents. Anyways, let's scroll down. There's one other thing I found interesting here. It's a quote again from Ralf Brandstätter. In the future, the individual configuration of the vehicle will no longer be determined by the hardware at the time of purchase. Instead, customers will be able to add functions on demand at any time via the digital ecosystem in the car. Again, this just sounds more like over-the-air updates, infotainment center type stuff, what Tesla's already doing, what they've been doing. So, I guess a golf clap to Volkswagen and Ralf Brandstätter and Herbert Diess for having Project Trinity. It's going to be in 2026. I do think it's probably too late. But now that you have an understanding of what Project Trinity is, let's go back to the tweet from Alex and what he got from Business Insiders. And let's reread that tweet to really get context now that we know what Project Trinity really is. Herbert Diess made clear, we need a will to live and a jolt at the site. Trinity has to take the site to a new competitive level, has to revolutionize it, also with new processes. However, the board says the designs for the project so far don't go far enough. So we're in 2021. This is set to open in 2026, or is supposed to be viable by 2026. And yet they still don't think that the concepts, the ideas, the processes are there yet. This is a crisis meeting they're having with all their top managers, with Brandstätter and Diess. This is major, right? This is a big deal. Let's keep reading here, though. Diess, quote, in the end, it's also about the jobs we have here. Mr. Diess or the supervisor board or the employee representatives don't decide about the jobs. It is the customer who decides, and the customer buys the product that offers more quality, more features for a better price. So in other words, unless customers buy your product, you're not going to have jobs. End of story. Okay, the ID vehicles they have now the ID4, ID3, they are just not selling that well. They're not getting great market adoption. In the United States, right, I think this last quarter they sold 5,000 vehicles, and then in Q3 about 6,000, so a slight uptick. In China, they are just not doing well at all, right? They are hurting. And so I think that's a big impetus for Project Trinity, is to, really ratify the way they do things and start from the ground up, just the way Tesla does, right? And hopefully what Ford will be doing with their new Blue Mile site, whatever it's called. You really need to start from the ground and work your way up, rather than just trying to retrofit a powertrain to what you currently have. Now, if we scroll down here, the VW Group CEO concluded, that's why we have to take up the fight, attack, and not let Grünheide ruin our location. They are scared that Giga Berlin is going to ruin their Project Trinity. This is so transparent, but it's excellent to hear, just to understand that these other companies are taking Tesla seriously. This is really alarming in a crisis atmosphere at VW headquarters, and the tone the CEOs use sounds very different from Herbert Diess' tweet today. And as you can see here, Herbert Diess tweeted, met with Ralf Brandstätter and our top managers at Wolfsburg to kick off the race against Tesla in Grünheide. We are ready. Trinity will revolutionize Wolfsburg. Let's take a step back here. What we're really seeing here is Volkswagen understanding that the competition is between them and Tesla. What we're really seeing is Ford and everything they're doing, all their new investments, everything in Kentucky and Tennessee, understanding that it's them versus Tesla. We're seeing GM do the same thing, right? We're seeing this all over the world. Everybody is essentially understanding and coming to the realization that Tesla is the real competitor here. That Tesla is so far ahead of everyone, and everyone else is just playing for second and third place. That's where we're at. Now, I will say a lot of analysts, a lot of people on the news, CNBC, Yahoo Finance, right? You name it, they don't understand this yet, but they will. All the car manufacturers are understanding it, and the data is starting to come through, right? We just got Q3 numbers, and while Tesla grew 73% year over year, about 20% quarter over quarter, everybody else declining. Now, you can call it a chip shortage issue, but as Kathy Wood said, EVs use 3 to 5 more chips than any ICE vehicle, and yet Tesla had no issues, right? I mean, they had issues, obviously, that they had to overcome, but they still grew, and they grew at an impressive clip. Q4 is coming up, and Q4 is set to be even better, especially if rumors are true and Giga Austin is about to actually start production. And if Giga Berlin does start production at the end of October, beginning of November, this will be massive. So Tesla's growing at incredible pace. Meanwhile, everybody else, and we'll pick on Volkswagen here, are still working on how to come up with the processes and techniques to be as efficient as Tesla, to be able to make a vehicle in 10 hours versus 3+ times that amount of time, right? It takes Volkswagen 30+ hours to do what Tesla does in 10. Economies of scale here. And not just that, but again, I stress, this is comparing to Shanghai or Fremont. This isn't even including their latest technology, which will be Giga Berlin, Giga Austin. It's time everybody wakes up and understands the machine that builds the machine, that is Tesla's real innovation. That is what you're really investing in, and that is what will set everything else apart. From 4680s to Cybertruck to how they manufacture batteries, this is where the real revolution is.
Yeah, I mean, basically Tesla is aiming to be the best at manufacturing of any company on earth. This is the thing that's actually most important in the long run. I think, just from a company standpoint and from basically achieving sustainability as fast as possible, but I think also for long-term competitiveness, eventually every car company will have long-range electric cars. Eventually every company will have autonomy, I think, but not every company will be great at manufacturing. Tesla will be absolutely head and shoulders above anyone else in manufacturing. That is our goal.
All right, everybody. I get a little passionate about this stuff. I hope you stuck to the end. If you did, thank you. I really appreciate it. Help us out here. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. I love you all. Peace.